Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It's my in-game and post-game. I've dropped into a game here that after Arkansas got out of the gates fairly well, had an early 3-point lead against Tennessee. The Vols took a 10-0 run to go up 19-12 and just continue to build on a lead. I think Arkansas trailed by 7 there, trailed by 25-18. Then Tennessee closed the first half. What really it was Kai Sigler hitting a couple of shots, assisting on another. It was another run, and Tennessee led by 15 at halftime. Arkansas has not been able to get over the hump in the second half. This feels a lot like that Illinois game. Illinois got out of the gates immediately and got a double-digit lead and never really let go of it. I think Arkansas got within 9 a few times, but it was a game where Arkansas couldn't make free throws to get a little closer, and a 3-point barrage by Illinois. Today, it's more about the 50-50 ball offensive glass work for Tennessee and guys hitting threes. Obviously, Chaz Lanier, one of the top scorers and 3-point shooters in the league, in the country. Arkansas's had no answer for him. Arkansas hasn't really done a good job defending him. Zakai Sigler's hit a couple of threes as Tennessee pushed out. The big man, we remember the big man, Big Z's twin. His percentages coming into that Arkansas game not great, and then he knocks down a bunch of threes. And even though it's not as much of a volume for Milicic for Tennessee, his percentages haven't been great, but he's getting rhythm shots off Ziegler's passing game. And again, Arkansas, when you look at Arkansas's losses against Baylor, against Illinois, even the win over Michigan, and some of the other games that Arkansas's won. Today, again, Arkansas really struggles with whether it's high ball screen action, whether it's dribble handoff, true screen, pick and pop, pick and roll, or in the middle today. It's been a lot of middle screen action with Tennessee. Arkansas has really struggled that with defensively. I think the biggest negative right now is we're inside of 10 minutes. Arkansas's down by 16, 8:37 to go, 58-42. I think the biggest negative is Arkansas's front line today. It's interesting because Arkansas, the last I checked, had 8 blocked shots. Tennessee didn't have any. These were two teams, both tops in the country, right up the top of the block shot board, just over 5.5. I think Arkansas was 5.7, Tennessee 5.5. It's not like Arkansas's front line hasn't done some things, but what it really needed to do was be really strong on the offensive glass and give Arkansas some kind of offensive presence in the paint. This has turned into Arkansas taking a lot of tough 3-point shots, whether early clock or late clock, not really able to challenge. We know Arkansas's best slasher is Adu Thiero, and what I've always said, he is a strictly A to B downhill driver. He's not a shot creator. He is a bully ball player. And so if you take away his straight line drive, he struggles changing direction. If you make him go east and west, he's going to lose his footing. He really struggles if he can't get downhill, and Tennessee is one of the best defensive team, arguably, in the country, number 2, according to KenPom's defense efficiency ratings, and it's taken Thiero out of the game, and now he's having another game again. Reminds me of Illinois. You talk about the free throw shooting. Last I checked, Arkansas was 4 of 11. They're down 18 now, back on offense, 60-42, just over 8 minutes to go. Arkansas's best offense today, I always say the best 2 shot creators on this team are Boogie Flynn and DJ Wagner. And most of his shot creation just comes in the array of little drives, little floaters, or getting all the way to the rim. He's been pretty successful with that today. Arkansas's only score in double figures. Another slow start for Boogie Flynn, but he did start making some shots late in that first half. I think he's Arkansas's second leading scorer right now with 9 points. But we've seen Adu Thiero with 2 0 for 2 free throw trips. We saw Jonas Adu in the first half go 0 for 2 on a free throw trip. Arkansas 4 of 11. And then when I last looked, Tennessee, I think, was 10 of 12. In our preview show yesterday, just a day ago, we talked about some of these margins, how Tennessee was a little bit better at getting to the free throw line and a little bit more efficient. Well, you couldn't have a large gap there in terms for Arkansas playing on the road of being a lot worse than Tennessee at the free throw line. That's just one example of what's gone wrong today. Obviously, the rebounding, the offensive glass work. This is where Arkansas's front line, where you saw Brazil, who's been a 0 today. That's just fair. That's a fair assessment. He has been a 0 factor today. Jonas Adu had a couple of steals, a couple of blocks. He had back-to-back buckets in the second half. Arkansas was minus 10 at halftime in points in the paint, and they stayed a little bit even the first 10 minutes on the glass of the second half, and actually had a surge scoring in the paint. I mentioned the two buckets by Adu on back-to-back possessions. Then he's gone quiet again, and you've had Wagner consistently driving in the paint and getting all the way to the rim. But Arkansas actually, after being minus 10 at halftime in points in the paint, 16-6, was when they trailed by 14 a few minutes ago, they were actually +2 in points in the paint for the game, 18-16. So they had outscored Tennessee at that point 12-0 in points in the paint. But what was the problem on the other end? Why hadn't that scoring, that deficit shrunk? Because Arkansas is leaving Chaz Lanier and Milicic open. And a lot of it's just smart plays by Zakai Siegler on how he's reading the rotations and defensive help off the ball screens. And then Arkansas getting lost. If Tennessee drives in, if Adu Thero drives into the paint, he's either going to fall down, turn it over, or take a bad shot that feels like a turnover if he doesn't finish. Tennessee slashers, if they don't have a shot, they're kicking out. And guys are spotting up. These guys play well together. It's something we talked about yesterday. The more veteran team that plays really well together at both ends. And Arkansas, individual pieces are there. Look, Arkansas, it doesn't probably feel like it because of the rebounding margin, but Arkansas' size, athleticism, and physicality, it's not an issue. It's lack of execution, lack of communication. You see slow rotations in the ball screen on some of these lob passes like to Akpara or even Milicic, or whatever his name is, that hit a couple of threes I mentioned, has also scored around the basket. Some uncontested shots just because Arkansas's rotations were either slow, not there at all, or Tennessee's just really good at executing, and Arkansas, couldn't get back into the play to stop Tennessee. A lot of that was first half. Arkansas's done a better job, but Lanier is a quick catch and quick release guy that reminds me a little bit of Isaiah Joe on his three-point shooting. A feathery touch, and you have to account for him. You cannot leave space for him to shoot it. You just have to take that away and turn him into a driver. We've seen him multiple times put the ball on the deck and go in the paint. Arkansas's bigs have done a good job altering his shots or defending them. This is a strange game. Arkansas, one of the top transition teams in the country. Last I checked, 8-3 in transition scoring, 8-0 in block shots. Arkansas actually shot a better percentage in the first half, although it trailed by 15. 41.7%, not great. Tennessee was just 40%. There were parts of this game where if you looked at it statistically, you're like, why is Arkansas not closer? Shitty job at the free throw line, forced to take a lot of tough threes, even though Arkansas is a better three-point shooting team. In the second half, Arkansas is 0 for 10 from the three-point line after hitting two early between Carter Knox and Tennessee's back on offense. Knox just hit his second three of the game. We know Wagner hit one early. So at 60-45, 15-point advantage, Tennessee, 7:30 left. This was the deficit at halftime. So Arkansas is basically struggling to break even. The turnover game's fairly close. A lot of Arkansas, we talked about it in the preview show yesterday, a lot of Arkansas are unforced, really just self-inflicted wounds. And Tennessee's defense is so good, they're going to create their own share of turnovers. That was the case. I think Brazil just grabbed a rebound with 7 minutes ago. I think that might be his first rebound of the game. Very disappointed in him. He looked like the Brazil prior to the last 6 games when Arkansas went on that winning streak in December, unbeaten in December. They're not going unbeaten in January. That probably was the case, win or lose today, or if they won today anyway. It's just a brutal SEC. Kentucky, big home win over previously unbeaten Florida in a score fest. Two teams that are really good offensively, though. That's no surprise. Two top 10 rated teams. Ole Miss, Arkansas's next opponent in the home opener at Bud Walton Arena, home league opener on Wednesday, gets a win at home against Georgia. It's a ranked Ole Miss team, 24th. Arkansas is probably going to slide out of the polls after this one. Ole Miss will probably move up a little bit on the strength of that win. No SEC team coming into the day had fewer than 10 wins. Insane. It's the best not only SEC's ever been, probably the best any conference at any level has ever been through this point of the season moving into January. And there's a lot of opportunities for Arkansas. This is a game where you look at this and you could say, oh, well, Arkansas is going to have a long run through the SEC. Don't forget, Jordan Gainey, who Arkansas has really kind of kept in check, just hit a three. You don't want to see that. He's a double-figure scorer. Probably, maybe arguably the best sixth man in the league. He just hit a three. Arkansas's done a good job on him, I guess, if you want to say it that way, in a game where, it feels like Illinois, Arkansas not getting completely blown out, but the double-figure margin maintains because Arkansas can't make free throws. They can't execute. I thought Arkansas did a poor job of testing Tennessee. Give Tennessee credit on the perimeter defense, but also keeping Arkansas out of the paint. But too often it's just you're relying on just straight line drives from guys like Adu Thero and DJ Wagner. Wagner has a lot more nuance in his drives. He's obviously quicker. He can get leverage easier. He can create space. Thero has to bull through people to get his, or against inferior competition, they just kind of get out of the way before he bulls them over. And, it's no knock on him. He's a very good defensive player. He's Arkansas's best rebounder to this point of the season. He's Arkansas's leading scorer. Very efficient because he gets most of his at the rim. A lot of it comes in transition. And even though Arkansas leads in transition in this game like you would expect, it hasn't been by a lot. Another block shot for the Hogs. The Hogs are going to have a monster game and a monster advantage in the block shot department. It just goes to show you how statistics can sometimes be misleading in a game where you're getting handled pretty much for the most part. The worst shooting, rebounding, and defense I've seen. Arkansas's defense started the game really well. Got Tennessee late in clock, forced some turnovers, blocked some shots. But you see it, whether it's today, it's been Adu Thero blocking shots, Carter Knox in transition. But other than that, it was Big Z and Jonas Adu getting block shots. But you're not getting the defensive rebound, to close those out. Another three, the lead's up to 19 for Tennessee. So this will be a game where the three-point shooting, the glass work, and Arkansas's inability on offense to play a more balanced game, getting inside the paint for most of the, there was a stretch to start the second half, the first 10 minutes where Arkansas did a better job there. But this offensive glass work, that last three again was by Lanier. I think he's got at least 5 triples now. The guy averages 4 per game. We talked about in the preview show, 46% from three, but he averages 4 per game. So it's a huge volume on that elite percentage. And, this is the kind of game Arkansas has had. Again, I go back to Illinois. Illinois was the number 1 rebounding team in the country when Arkansas played them. And the Hogs battled on the glass. That was fairly even. It was just that heavy dose of great three-point shooting against Arkansas's poor three-point shooting, combined with Arkansas just being atrocious at the free throw line. So there's combinations of that, but Arkansas also getting dominated on the glass. So Tennessee, again, we're under 5 minutes, 66-47. Arkansas is going to be 0-1 in the SEC. The good news is this is the opener. Arkansas never starts well in SEC play. That's not good news to have that happen again. But the point is there's 17 more games, and this is the best team in the league right now. The hottest team in the country at 14-0. There's really no other way to look at that. Florida was in that conversation. You could say Oklahoma is. Oklahoma's not as good as this team is. I don't know who is. Team holding opponents to 56 points per game, but on track. Holding teams to 30, coming in 30, 35, under 35% overall field goal shooting. Arkansas shooting over 51% coming in. Something had to give. We see what's given today. Arkansas, again, another unforced turnover, just a bad decision on DJ Wagner trying to make an entry pass. I've seen multiple times this year trying to make passes to Jonas Adu. If you pass to him with a clear lane, he's going to finish that. But if there's anybody in his line of sight that he's got to beat, it's almost impossible to get it to him because he's not going to move. He's not going to break a little bit more to beat the guy that's guarding him to get that pass. I've seen it multiple times this year. Part of that's probably the foot injury he's been dealing with. He's still probably not 100% because he doesn't necessarily move well when he needs to sometimes. This is just, again, Arkansas now down 21. So this is as ugly as it's been for Arkansas in a game this year when you look at a deficit in terms of where it might end. I mean, Arkansas lost by 13 to Illinois. The Razorbacks lost by, of course, 5 to Baylor in the previous 2 losses. And so Arkansas's trailed by double digits in several games, including those, including Michigan, including Miami, including some other ones. But this will be the most lopsided loss. So I think the good news is, again, just getting back to that, if there is any, this is the best team. You're playing on the road, and it's a shock to the system initially, but you come home for back-to-back against 2 very good teams, but teams I think Arkansas can beat. I think personnel-wise, the fact that Arkansas has dominated the shot blocking, been pretty much even in steals and turnovers before I came on. And, the athleticism is definitely there. The size is there. It doesn't feel like it because Tennessee's just been dominant in the 50-50 ball and rebounding game. But so much of that is just how they position themselves and how well they're coached. And Arkansas just isn't there yet in this group. They're not in sync. And so just being out of position a little bit and being lost in a play can make all the difference in how you finish out that play and execute a rebound or not. And again, like a Duke Thero at 6'7", 6'8", he's usually Arkansas's 4. And Tennessee has a taller 4'5" if Thero's is your 4. But Arkansas's got the pieces. But with Big Z, again, he's blocking shots, but he's not really a rebounder, and he's not a physical presence at all. And he gets lost, and he'll turn the ball over when he's out there. So you're still having a lot of growing pains with Big Z, who played 15 games only last year as a freshman at Kentucky. All right, 16 minutes in. This is going to be a loss for Arkansas. We're at the under 4-minute timeout. Arkansas is down 21, 68-47. Tennessee's tracking its season average of 80 points per game and keeping team winning by a 23.5-point margin at 21 right now. At this pace, they'll get there, maybe even better. Arkansas needs to finish well just to make it a little more respectable. Again, this is not how you want to start league play again. The last time Arkansas opened up SEC play with a win was in the 2021 season, the COVID-shortened year. Arkansas opened up on the road in late December against a not very good Auburn team, a team that went on to have a losing record, and Arkansas won that game. It was a battle, too. I'm not sure. That game might have gone to overtime, but it was a close game all the way to the end, and Arkansas found a way to win it. And that was the last time Arkansas opened with a win in SEC play. So this will be the 4th straight season, 21, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25. So the 4th consecutive season that Arkansas will open with a loss in league play. Typically, it's followed by more losses and getting in a hole. That's also what it's been in the last few years. I think 1-6 last year. The previous year, maybe 1-5. The year before that, 0-3 before Arkansas won a game. It could be another 0-3. Ole Miss and Florida are good enough. But I think, again, Arkansas has the individual pieces and playing at home. And I don't think either Ole Miss or Florida are quite tuned up and playing as well tuned as Tennessee is. And they're not as good defensively. Ole Miss is good defensively, not as good as this. Florida is better offensively than Tennessee, but not as good defensively. So this team doesn't have a lot of cracks. It came in KenPom not only second in defense, but 19th in offensive efficiency. So it's the kind of efficiency on both sides of the ball that look like what you see when teams make it to Final Fours and win national championships. Rick Barnes has got a salty squad, and it starts with Sakai Siegler, who's just had a monster game when you look at his impact, and everyone else around him as a complement. Chaz Lanier, you think, well, there's your alpha scorer, but he's just a really good shooter. He's not a stat sheet stuffer. He's not a particularly elite defender. He fits what they do defensively because of the way they communicate. But they had enough returning veterans and understand what Rick Barnes wants, where guys can just kind of come in and complement on that end. But he's an alpha scorer because he's a shot taker and maker. You've seen Arkansas. I've said multiple times, one of the issues I have with Arkansas was availability. Well, they got everybody ready today playing. Whether they're at a full 100% or not, okay. Some of the other issues, the self-inflicted wounds, obviously that's a problem. It was a problem again today. I didn't know that Arkansas would fail this miserably in the rebounding department and then be just this ugly again at the free throw line, where that might have helped them put a little more pressure on Tennessee in this game and keep it just a little closer. It's a 25-point advantage now for Tennessee with 2:40 to go, 72-47. This is a wipeout. We're going to probably wrap this up here in a little bit. But the other thing I've said, what I think keeps Arkansas from being that top 3 to 4 team, and you can see down the road maybe a Final Four, is the fact that the guy they brought in to be their go-to and their top player, Nelly Davis, is just not that guy. He was back today after 2 missed games playing off the bench behind Carter Knox. And Nelly Davis continues to be a spot-up catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. When you see him drive, it's almost certain that he's going to pass off the drive. He's not looking to score. There was a transition play where he didn't even attack the rim. He was defended, but he could have got into the defender and maybe drawn a foul or made an and one or had a chance, and he still kicked the ball out for a corner three. And Arkansas ended up getting an open look. This is a Tennessee's team I said yesterday in the preview show. They defend the three so well that even when you start getting, at some point in the course of a game, no matter how good a team is defensively, you're going to get some open looks. But the pressure increases for you to make shots when you're trailing and you've struggled so much to get open ones. It kind of becomes a thing when you start to press and struggle. And Arkansas, that's what's happened in this game when they've had to shoot. And they took a lot of shots from three. At one point, they'd taken more threes than twos late in that first half. 72-49 with a minute 44. Tennessee, I guess, called a timeout. Yeah, we're going to wrap this up here in a minute. Arkansas is going to fall to 11-3 on the season, 0-1 in SEC play. 2 ranked teams on the docket. At least one of those is a quad 1 win opportunity. I think Ole Miss is outside the top 30 in quad ranking, so that'll be a quad 2 opportunity on Wednesday. Florida should still be ranked. They're top 10 right now, top 5 in net. They lost today at Kentucky. They'll probably fall a little bit, but that'll be a quad 1 win opportunity on the following Saturday, a week from today. Nelly doesn't need to be paid. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. Look, Nelly Davis has just not been what we thought. He's not that guy. Chaz Lanier is the guy that we thought Nelly Davis would be. And I've said over and over again, one of the biggest issues I have for this Arkansas team is your top player is still, in my opinion, Boogie Fland, despite Theo leading the team in so many things. Fland's the best player on this team. And he's the best shot creator at all 3 levels and probably your go-to guy if the game were close, which I predicted this would be a closer game. I said if any team could blow it out, I'd be easy answer. That's Tennessee. I didn't think it would happen. Well, it's happened. But Fland's your best shot creator at all 3 levels, and your second best shot creator is really DJ Wagner. And that's unfortunate because you really needed Nelly Davis to be that guy. You needed him to be someone because of his percentages and averages coming in. You thought at all 3 levels that would be there. It's not. He's been an opportunistic 3-point shooter off someone else's creativity, catch and shoot. He just took another catch and shoot 3, by the way, and missed. So he's done. He and Brazil, Arkansas needed all hands on deck today. Those guys probably the 2 most disappointing. Even Big Z, as bad as he's been for the most part, hit a 3 and blocked 3 shots. Had 3 or 4 rebounds maybe. Jonas Adu, not a good game for him. Another Okpara dunk off a pick and roll with Ziegler, who's got to have a double-double. I don't know what the stats are, but he's got to be in double-double territory today. 76-49. I'm just waiting for it to end before I sign off. This was ugly. Arkansas is probably not even going to get to 50 points. So Tennessee's going to hold Arkansas below the season average, 56-plus points. 38 seconds to go at 76-49. Arkansas is getting blown out. This is the first. Now, Arkansas will not have a bad loss on the resume in terms of net quad rankings. There are no quad 3 or quad 4 losses in SEC play. Probably won't be. I think the teams are set up well enough, and because they'll be playing only each other now, they're not going to fall too much. Boogie Fland just doesn't matter anymore, 3 to get Arkansas over 50, so 76-52, 30 seconds to go. There will be maybe one more possession for Arkansas if they can get a stop and a defensive rebound or something else. But this will be a bad loss in terms of how it looks. When the dust settles at the end of the season, this will still count a bad loss, not in terms of quad. But if if you've only got, right now Arkansas's got one quad one win against Michigan. If you end up with most of your wins in league play being quad two, and you only picked up one or two quad one wins, let's say, and you add that to the one you had against Michigan, so you had two or three in the end of the day, and most of your quad one records losses, if enough of those are blowout losses, those will be viewed as bad losses, not in a quad sense, but they'd still be a bad loss, and just a well, Arkansas had another turnover to end the game. 76-52 is the final score. Arkansas 11-3, 0-1. First blowout loss of the season. I know Illinois felt like it, but it wasn't quite this bad. Arkansas was within, hung close enough in that. We can say that it's two now if you want to count that one. This one certainly is. All right, 25 plus minutes in. I'm going to sign off. Tennessee remains unbeaten, 4-0, number one in the country for a reason. That's going to maintain. This is an impressive win for the Vols, and I think Arkansas still has the pieces to win its share of games, including quad ones. And I think Arkansas could be 0-3 by this time next week, or the Hogs could be 2-1. These are obvious statements because we know they've got two games, but I think they're good enough to be 2-1, and I think they make enough mistakes and have enough problems to be 0-3 if they don't get some of that stuff sorted out in the short term. Because this was a brutal start. Every week's going to be tough. Every game's going to be tough. This was a brutal start out of the gates in terms of who you're playing. There weren't many other variations that wouldn't be equally as brutal, maybe a couple. And again, without Nelly Davis being who we thought he was, regardless of how these next two games play out and what happens after that, something's going to have to change there for me to feel like this Arkansas team could get to the final weekend of the NCAA tournament. I don't see any personnel things that could develop that would change other than him being who we thought he was. And this is deep enough into the season, despite his injuries, and that being maybe an excuse where I'm starting to think that it's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. If it does, it changes things for Arkansas, but I think that's what it's going to take. And I've said this before, not just today. I've talked about that as being an issue and something Arkansas really needs. People complain about Nelly, Brazil. I said they're probably the two most disappointing today. You could spread that around. I think Boogie Flan got into double figures. It was academic at that point. He didn't have a good game, had a really slow start. I think in the first half, he didn't commit a turnover, though. It's just that he couldn't even get into his facilitating game because Arkansas did a poor job of finding ways to attack the paint, and that's where he gets a lot of his assists. Is feeding guys like Brazil and Adu, even Thiero on some of that, just not there. But again, this Arkansas team, to me, is still, if I'm projecting it, despite this, again, this is one game, and this is the best team in the league and the best team in the country. It's not an excuse. It's to say there's a lot more basketball to be played. But despite even saying that, with all the other issues I just talked about, I see Arkansas at best still right now, what I've been saying, a middling, maybe find a way to be top end middling in this league, 6 to 9 range. It could be uglier than that, sure. But I think that's kind of the best case right now. And I said the last time out, best case would maybe be if Nelly comes around and things are working out, you have everybody available, maybe having a top 3 or 4 finish. But after a game like this, you have to back off of that a little bit. And so that's what I'm doing. I have put it mostly on this. More than that, looks like probably a middling SEC team at best. And right now, that's what you got to hope for until they can get to that point and then improve from there. If it's to happen, Arkansas is not going to make a big exponential jump all of a sudden from what we saw today in terms of having everything fixed. That's just not going to happen. But they have enough pieces, and if they fix enough of the shit that we saw today, they potentially could go 2-0 this next week. Could also go 1-3. You split those two games, it's not the end of the world because you're going to pick up either your first quad 2 win against Ole Miss or your next quad 1 win against Florida at home. So even a split is not murderous at this point for you. And we've seen Arkansas over the years start slowly with a much worse record out of the gates in SEC play than a 1-2. Let's say it was that. And find ways to get back into the league race or at least put themselves in an at-large position getting in. And that was under a different coaching staff. But remember, Calipari all the knocks in postseason, which are justifiable the last 5 years, they're typically outstanding in the regular season, including SEC play. So there's that. All right, signing off now. Exactly 30 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live today. If you haven't done it, please hit subscribe, like, or share. I'm Kevin McPherson. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you then.